What's better, BPC-157 or TB-500? That's like me asking you, what kid do you like the most? Do you like your son or do you like your daughter, Regan? You got two sons and you got a daughter. Which one do you want to take on the trip? Okay, I love all my kids and they're so different, but yet so unique, and they bring a lot of energy into my life. And if you have kids, you know what I'm saying. So peptides are like kids to me. They're like friends. You know, I work with over 100 peptides all the time and continually learning and researching new ones. But thymosin beta-4 or TB-500 and BPC-157, there's some unique differences. And in this video, I'm going to show you the framework that I use in thinking through which one of these peptides to use in particular circumstances. And then you'll learn which one might be right for you by the end of this video. So let's jump in. Okay, so which peptide do we use, BPC-157 or TB-500? Now let's jump into the nuances. So remember, BPC is Body Protective Complex 157, and it's made by the gastric secretions. So BPC-157 would be a preferred peptide if you want to recover from inflammatory conditions, like maybe you've had an acute injury, maybe you just want to accelerate some tissue healing, and if you have a digestive issue. So here's the caveat where you'd say BPC-157 is going to be better for you. And this does not mean it's a better peptide or a worse peptide. It just means that you want to look at, do you have acid reflux? Do you have bloating? Do you have a hard time digesting proteins? Do you notice that after you eat, you get tired and kind of lethargic? Do you notice your stools fluctuate? You get loose stools and then hard stools, or maybe you just don't even poop. I mean, that's a big problem. But BPC-157 is working on the digestive system, but it also works on the tissue recovery. So when we think of damage, like injuries to the body, I think BPC-157 when there's an acute injury. So here's one of the studies that was conducted. They questioned, the researchers said, well, what does BPC do when it comes to neuronal damage? So if someone's had a stroke, for example, an acute stroke, or maybe they've hemorrhagic or a blood vessel that broke, or maybe it's hypoxic stroke where there's a loss of oxygen because of a plugged artery, or maybe it's from a traumatic brain injury. And so they took this group of rats and they dropped a brick on the heads of the rats. And then they were able to measure some of the proteins that were excreted from the mice after the injury, and they could see that yes, they had a traumatic brain injury. A lot of these poor mice were kind of limping around and they couldn't remember how to make it through the maze that they could before the incident. They should have worn hard hats. I mean, every rat knows that, but especially in our lab. Then what they did is one group of mice, they received just water. That was the control group. The other group received BPC-157. And what the researchers noticed is that the rats, when they would drink, the group that had the BPC-157, they had a recovery rate that was about 3 or 4 times greater than the rats that didn't. And they were able to recover their dexterity, they were able to move, their mobility was improved. That hemiplegia that happened in some of these rats, they were able to actually start gaining a little more mobility. They were able to make it through the maze, and they had better social skills. So they're interacting with the other mice in more positive ways. Versus the control group that just received the water, they didn't have the same recovery because of the inflammation. And so anytime there's a traumatic brain injury or any acute injury in the body, you would think BPC-157, you want to get on that as quickly as possible because of the angiogenic nature of it and the ability for it to increase this funny word called VEGF, and this has nothing to do with vegetables. VEGF is your vascular endothelial growth factors, and those are excreted from your blood vessels. And the second thing that it does is it also improves nitric oxide. So if you want great cell signaling, if you want your blood vessels to dilate, nitric oxide is the thing that you really want. You can add some beetroot juice in with that. You can also add some arugula. That is really going to help increase your nitric oxide when you're using BPC-157. So BPC-157, just to clarify, acute injuries, phenomenal, better than TB-500, more than likely. If you have digestive issues, especially BPC-157 is the way to go. And so what about TB-500? When is that one better? So TB-500 or thymosin beta-4, just so you guys just clarify the difference, TB-500 is typically a fragment, so it's not the full structure of thymosin beta-4, but thymosin beta-4 is made by your thymus gland, and this thymus gland is like a training center for the intelligence of your immune system. And as we age, our thymus gland gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so for those of you who are in your 60s, I don't mean to ruin your day, but your thymus gland is like the size of a pea. And that creates a problem. And that's one of the reasons why, as we get older, we're more susceptible to like dying from pneumonia and infections, respiratory infections, COVID, other viruses. It's because our thymus gland has involuted. And so what these thymulin peptides do, along with some of the growth hormone peptides, is they help improve the structural integrity of your thymus gland. And actually, I was at a conference called Da Vinci 50, and I was actually able to see someone who had increased the size of their thymus gland using some of these novel treatments. And I find that pretty fascinating. So thymosin beta-4, when would you use this? Well, this peptide, you want to think more systemic. So when you have a cut that occurs on your body, the very first gene that gets activated is the gene called thymosin beta-4. And that thymosin beta-4 gets turned on and it mobilizes these little cells called pericytes, not parasite like in your gut or like a worm. I actually have a patient that's supposedly he's got this like 12-inch tapeworm and he's trying to get it out. So I'm like, all right, good luck, and here's the stuff you can take. But thymosin beta-4, actually, it activates pericytes, which are turned into mesenchymal stem cells or medicinal signaling cells. Now this is phenomenal because many of us, we've been cut and you see your body magically heals on its own without you having any intention around anything. It's just your body heals because of this thymosin beta-4 activation. So thymosin beta-4 goes around your entire body and helps repair what's been damaged by turning on the genes. Okay, Regan needs some stem cells here. He needs some stem cells in his hip, in his knee, or definitely in his brain, in his heart, everywhere. And so that beautiful molecule, you want to think of it for long-term systemic healing. So if you have a chronic condition, maybe you've got chronic pain, fibromyalgia, maybe you're feeling like you just can't recover from your workouts because of the DOMS or the delayed onset muscle soreness. Maybe you've had like mold exposure, Lyme. We've seen thymosin beta-4 be incredibly supportive and helpful because of the systemic long-term benefits of that stem cell activation. So there's two hallmarks of aging that is addressed by BPC-157 and thymosin beta-4. One of those would be the loss of proteostasis, and that's when we lose the ability to break down and denature proteins so that we can actually use them to build muscle mass. BPC-157 helps with that. Thymosin beta-4 takes care of this really big problem called stem cell exhaustion. And so when you use thymosin beta-4, you're activating your body's own stem cells. And what we found is if you really want to accelerate your progress, we stack what are called exosomes, which are little signaling properties from your body stem cells. And exosomes go in and they're little vesicles that find the areas of damage and they turn up the volume of thymosin beta-4, and then you get a better expression of stem cells. And then we also use thymosin beta-4 to prepare you for stem cell therapy or post-stem cell therapy. And usually we do on both ends of it, and it makes a massive difference. So we had a client that came in who had congestive heart failure. He had digestive issues. He was retired at the time, but wanted to get back into the workforce because he was a really talented engineer and he was bored. He was 72. And his doctor told him he had congestive heart failure. And so one of the things the team and I did is we looked at his labs and we said, okay, let's see if we can't reverse this congestive heart failure and actually get him to the place where he can be as sharp as he was before as an engineer. And so he went all in. He made his lifestyle changes, started exercising more. We used thymosin beta-4 and BPC-157 in higher quantities, and then we cycle him off of it. We did 3 months on, we did 2 weeks off, and then another 3 months on, and then we did stem cell IVs, we did exosomes, and then we did this great treatment called plasma renewal, where we use concentrated cord plasma, and he was injecting himself every week with 1 cc of this concentrated cord plasma. And we sent him back to his cardiologist, and his cardiologist ran him through the entire workup, and said, you no longer have congestive heart failure. Not only was he ecstatic about that, but he said his brain has never felt better, his body had never felt better. He felt at least 30 years younger because of this treatment protocol. And this is the magic of functional medicine and activating what we call the Peptide Pathway Bypass. It's a patented process that my team and I have been working on for over a decade, and now we have the selectivity and targetability to personalize medicine in ways we've never had it before. So now that you know the benefits and the difference between BPC-157 and TB-500, now you realize that all your kids can still be your favorite kid without isolating one of them. And if you like this video, I've got an entirely another video on how to stack BPC-157 and TB-500 to get the highest level of results with the least amount of downside, and I'll see you on the video.